Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I too have been listening to this debate intently and want to make sure that I have some things clarified in my mind before we obviously press the right button. So through you to the proponent of the amendment, a few questions through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. And sitting behind you, we have the proponent of the amendment, Representative Sampson. If you would, sir, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to position myself so I can hear my good representative's answers. Through you, Mr. Speaker, it is my understanding and is loud and clear that on numerous occasions, Representative Sampson alluded that this is only going to impact criminals who are obviously illegal immigrants as well, but only if they have committed a crime. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Sampson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that question from my colleague. Yes, I will reiterate that this applies only to those people that are being pursued by federal law enforcement authorities. And that does not apply to every person who is in the country legally. I have the statistics here. I'd be happy to review them with anyone who would like to discuss them.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the good representative for the response, because that was an important clarification. Because in the previous conversations that we had, our good chair of the Judiciary Committee gave a long list of individuals, hardworking. He talked about them working 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, and also shared his own family story. But through you, Mr. Speaker, since all of those individuals, I'm presuming they are not criminals, through you, Mr. Speaker, would this amendment impact them anyway? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Again, this amendment simply strikes something that is in our state law that is in direct contradiction to federal law. It is a law that we passed and adopted that says that we are going to tell our local, state, and local law enforcement officials to not comply with federal law, which they have to, because federal law has supremacy in the area of immigration. My amendment is simply to strike that. It is not, as was suggested, to target anyone. In fact, we don't do anything in this case except for comply with the federal law that already exists and remove our provisions from state law that would be an impediment to our obligations to comply with federal law.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, being not an attorney, I just want to clear that. As I understand this amendment, if this amendment were not to pass, through you, Mr. Speaker, within a 48-hour period of retaining, if ICE were not able to get to them, of course excluding holidays and weekends and so on and so forth, those individuals who are criminals in our society would have to be released. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Back to you, Representative Sampson, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And please forgive me that I didn't really understand the question. I don't think that there is anything that is in our current state law that directs us to do anything except for to comply with the federal law that exists. So I don't know if I can really answer that question with respect to this amendment. This amendment simply removes what I feel and I think can be clearly demonstrated is in direct contradiction to existing federal law. And if went to a court, I think it would say so.
Thank you, Representative Sampson.
And through you, Mr.
Representative Srinivasan, your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And through you, my final question to the good proponent of the amendment. So what this basically does is that if we detain such individuals, as I see that in lines 61 through 63, those individuals will continue to be detained till the immigration authorities, come over and take charge of the situation. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Representative Srinivasan. Representative Sampson, Representative Srinivasan has said this is his final question. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would be delighted to reply that that is correct. And as is the case in every other state that does not establish its own unconstitutional impediment to following federal law. Simply, the amendment removes an impediment that should not be there. We have no right to be interfering with the federal authorities on this issue.
Thank you, Representative Sampson. Representative Srinivasan, of course you may ask all the questions you wish. I hope I wasn't discouraging you.
Not at all.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, I have asked all my questions. Thank you for the opportunity to do so. But I do want to also close by saying, being a first-generation immigrant myself, having gone through the process, a due process, for me to come here into this nation, this beautiful nation, and have all the opportunities that I have had the opportunity that I was able to bring my wife here when we got married, and gone through the process, through the legal process that enables us to be legal citizens here. And so for us now to look at the illegal citizens, illegal immigrants that have come into this country, and then, unfortunately, these criminal acts that are done by these individuals, they've got to be held responsible. And then for us to say that, gee, you know what, they are criminals, yes, they happen to be illegal, yes, and we do not need to do anything about that, turn and look the other way, will definitely not make our societies safer. We need to make sure our first responsibility is public safety, and for public safety, we need to make sure these illegal immigrants who are criminals, they need to be held under the federal authorities for due action to be taken to them. I stand here, Mr. Speaker, in strong support of the amendment, and I hope my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, will do the same. Thank you.